Like, I've never eaten so much at night in my life, but honest to God, the food is just phenomenal. So I'm gonna have another sandwich and just keep eating. Keep up with me. I need a napkin. My poor cousin over there, freaking dying. And I keep pushing him harder and harder, man. Stay curious, I tell him. Stay curious. Haha, even in the heat. Excellent.
Hundreds of times, I had looked out of airplane windows at new destinations, anticipating exploration and excitement. But on this trip, I felt much more apprehension and fear. I went to Iraq, my country of origin, for the first time in November 2011. At the time, I went as a volunteer with a group of local and international Iraqis to organize the first TEDx Baghdad. My role was to refine the talks of inspiring thought leaders from around the country, eager to share their ideas, accomplishments, and innovations to the world. While we were confined to an area called the Green Zone, a walled-off, secure location divorced from the city, I was still fortunate enough to venture out one night to see my family that I had never met before and explore the capital, albeit for a few short hours. But that was the first experience in Iraq, and it was incredibly memorable. And while I did return several times as an international development lawyer, I was not allowed to leave the Green Zone, out of safety and concern.
All right, looks like it's finally happening. Heading to Baghdad. It's been many, many years. Nervous, obviously there's a lot going on and it's hotter than hell out there. Estimates could be as high as 120 degrees, which is wild. And I hope it's safe. Nothing says otherwise, but God willing, it will be a safe trip and worthwhile, and we can maximize our time on the ground in Baghdad. So here's to hoping and here's to praying.
Even though it has been almost a decade since I was last in Iraq, those fears and concerns have carried over.
Welcome to Baghdad International Airport.
I had no idea what to expect. Would I be able to finally explore Baghdad? Would I understand and appreciate it? Would I be welcome or just considered a tourist in my own country? Whatever was going to happen, I just hoped that my family would support and guide me while I was there. When I arrived, I was immediately reunited with my family. Aunt, uncle, cousins, second cousins, third cousins. And even though I had last seen them almost 15 years ago, we did not even miss a beat. Family dinner gatherings, birthday celebrations, and outings all over the city.
Now, if you guys want to know who is my cameraman, well, he's right over there, and that is Ahmed Ali, my cousin. He has been so kind to take me all around, because I used to be so scared to come to Baghdad, and this guy's pretty much showing everything to me and really kind of exposing me to the history, which is really, really incredible. And a lot of it has to do thanks to him and to my family that are still here. So thank you.
Now, one thing that was not foreign to me was Iraqi food, or so I thought. Ahmed and I went on a rampage. Some of the food I'd had before,
Just like home.
but a lot of it was new to me. Pacha, for one, which includes the head of a sheep, was a novelty.
I think I'm eating the brain. Woo! Takes a certain kind of liking.
And the quzi was like nothing I'd ever had before.
All right, waking up at 6, having breakfast that's gonna be filled with kebab and this crazy bread. What's it called? I shouldn't have some. Well, there you go. Just classic Iraqi bread. You can see some of the parsley and other spices in it, which is just crazy since I usually do intermittent fasting every day, but here in Iraq, you've got to have kebab in the morning. So one in Rome.
Let's take a moment to describe the Iraqi falafel experience. I grew up in Egypt, where falafel was much more low-key. But in Iraq, my God, it was a production. One of the days I went to Haydar double pronounced in Iraqi English, for the super large portions and all the garnishes that you can put on the falafel sandwich. Mango pickles, cabbage, beets, eggplant stew, hummus, and so much more for the low price of $1.50.
Let's start piling it up. Literally can't fill it up anymore. What am I eating? So you've got taxis, minibuses, and you've got little tuk-tuks. So we're gonna try the tuk-tuks. We've already kind of used the taxis.
In between bouts of food, we went to explore Baghdad's streets, squares, cafes, and of course, interact with the locals. What immediately stood out to me was the pride of the people. Whatever their job, they held their heads up high. Another was their serious demeanor. I found myself smiling at people just to see them react and enjoyed seeing them quickly smile back. And yet another was their sheer hospitality, never allowing you to pay for anything. I remember one man offered us tea and refused to take a penny for it, even though he was a poor street peddler. And then there were the historic cafes all over the city. One of them was named after my family's name, due to the famed Iraqi poet who's a close relative.
Such heritage. It was opened in 1917, so almost over 100 years ago. It's part of that Iraqi cafe spirit, that liveliness of activists and intellect that come together to really enjoy the gatherings of Iraqi culture. Right, so right here we're in Shara al-Rashid, one of the main thoroughfares in Baghdad. It's probably one of the oldest continuously used main arteries in the city. And what you find here is all kinds of different architectural styles. A really cool part of Baghdad, something I really, really want to see and heard so much about for so many years growing up. And right behind me is Shara al-Mutanabbi, which is the main street of books, said to be the street with the most books in the world. So really just an awesome, awesome place to kind of spend the afternoon. And it really pops between 9 a.m. and around 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
They say Cairo writes, Beirut publishes, and Iraq reads. I saw that firsthand in Baghdad. Their love of books was profound, as well as the arts and poetry. I remember one day wandering into an interactive exhibit on the banks of the Tigris in a place called the Qashla, which is known to provide a forum for people engaging in political debates. Artisans showcasing their craft, people reciting poetry, and even musicians playing West and Eastern music together. Now, I'm a huge lover of history and politics, and when I was in graduate school at Cambridge, I wrote my master's thesis on modern Iraqi history. So when I visited one of Baghdad's most well-known cafes, Cafe Shbandar, I was blown away by the sheer number of old pictures hanging on the walls, recalling Iraq's eclectic history. From the monarchy to socialism, military government to dictatorships. Sadly, this cafe had its own turbulent history, where the cafe in March 2007 was targeted in a car bomb that destroyed the cafe and killed 4 of the owner's sons. As I viewed all the photos, I wondered if they had a picture of my relative, the poet, and bam, there it was. I'd grown up looking at that picture for many years in my house.
This is actually made out of lime, dried lime called lumi basra. And they dry it, put it in hot water, and put some sugar, and this is what you get. And it tastes delicious. And where we are.
After the cafe, I went to explore a part of old Baghdad that had just recently been restored to give people a taste of years past.
In here, they've been trying to do a lot of renewal of old Baghdad. That is where a lot of the administrative buildings were. And here, this spot has been completely redone in the last couple of years. So really so historic, and also just kind of showcases the beauty of Iraqi artisans and art right here in these areas and really throughout the city, which is something that is just so fascinating. Okay, so this is a statue, a homage to Shahrayar and Shahrazad, written about 1001 Nights, an incredible amalgamation of stories about Iraqi history at its time and its folklore, but it probably has a lot of truth in it. Right here is Shahrayar, and he was a famous king. And what happened was a woman had cheated on him, and he felt so vexed that what he did is he killed a woman every night. He would marry them in the morning, sleep with them, and then kill them, I guess, the next morning. And at the end, he had one woman left, and that is Shahrazad over there. It's actually a huge testament about woman's power as well, because what she does is she ends up telling him story after story. And before she concludes the story, she says, and that's where we'll stop, and we'll continue the story the next day. And the guy is just excited to know what the next story is gonna be about, how it concludes. And this is the beauty of the story, because it goes for over 1001 nights of storytelling till he falls madly in love with the beautiful Shahrazad and then ends up marrying her, and happily ever after. Really incredible story, and something that really is personal to me, because my dad used to read us this story when we were kids, and we would listen to it every night, almost as if my dad was Shahrazad and we were Shahriyar in this whole experience.
Coincidentally, during my time in Baghdad, I was there for Muharram, which certainly opened my eyes. By background, Muharram commemorates the martyrdom of Imam Hussein at the Battle of Karbala.
Right here, we're in front of Imam Musa al-Kadhim, which is a beautiful mosque with golden domes. For 40 days, they really mourn and think through that famous battle and the consequences that befell it. We're gonna go in the mosque. They don't allow cameras, so at least I want to kind of provide you a little bit of an overview of what this whole experience is really about.
The 40 days are marked by mourning rituals, including processions and prayers, resuscitations, and symbolic sacrifice. Honestly, I had never witnessed zeal like that before. It was powerful, surreal, and frankly frightening. What really struck me was not just the religious fervor, but the fraternal spirit, where every neighbor takes turns to feed their local communities. Homes are open to pilgrims, and you witness a true sense of camaraderie with worshippers of all backgrounds, including Pakistanis, Iranians, Gulf Arabs, Indians, and many other nationalities. Iraq is said to be the cradle of civilization, as it was home to the oldest civilization in the world. You can see this clearly in the Iraqi Museum in Baghdad, which houses almost 200,000 artifacts. And even though a lot of the artifacts were plundered in the days after the US invasion and occupation of Iraq, many of the pieces were thankfully recovered.
What an incredible museum. So much to see here. You're definitely gonna spend hours. We're talking about 4,000 or 5,000 years of civilization, chapter by chapter, room by room. It makes you so proud to be Iraqi. All right, so Mustansiriya University, right here, or really Mustansiriya Madrasa, was founded in the 1200s. What's really fascinating about this place is that it survived the Mughal invasion of 1258, which decimated Baghdad. But somehow, some way, this university survived it, and has survived the test of time for so many years. What a beautiful structure. And it's obviously been restored, because otherwise it kind of fell into disrepair. And now there is a modern version of the university called Mustansiriya University, which is not far from where we are here on the banks of the Tigris, near Sharat Mutanabbi, really the center of learning and ta'aleem here in Baghdad. So I decided today to go on a wild goose chase to find exactly where my dad actually studied in high school. Kulliyat Baghdad, right here in Al-Alamiya area, which was not too far from where my family lived, all the way back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. Unfortunately, it's closed, but I still get such a sense of how my dad used to commute, walking probably, from the house to the school. So cool. My dad's gonna love this. So, as a commemoration again for the art and history, because we know that in Iraq there was such a plundering of Iraq's artifacts and history in the museum right at the end of the invasion of the US and Operation Iraqi Freedom. And so to save the art and history of the country, they commissioned this beautiful sculpture right behind me, a 5-armed human holding up this cylinder in cuneiform. And that cuneiform itself is the oldest writing in the world, and it says, "Writing began here." And it was built right in the site of another location where Saddam had his statues.
As I explored Baghdad, I couldn't stop seeing markers from the tragic era of the country's recent history. The Iran-Iraq War, the First Gulf War, sanctions, US invasion, civil strife in the form of bullet-ridden buildings, graves, bomb blasts, and memorial placards. These vestiges still form a part of the daily life and struggles of the people.
So this one's personal to me. It's back in 1991. The US sent a missile, bunker-busting missile, right here in the Amariya neighborhood, just right outside of the center of Baghdad. And I remember it so well because my father did an art piece to really commemorate the people that died. And right here, you can see this beautiful piece of art that really kind of exhibits the sadness and the fear in the eyes of the people that died during that night back in 1991. What happened here on February 13th, over 400 people were hiding here in the Amariya area, told that they would be safe. But prior to that, US officials felt that there was military presence. They were getting beeps and signals coming from the area, so they thought there was military here. They sent in a smart bomb. It penetrated right there above, and it was a delayed fuse. It just penetrated, waited, and then exploded. And then right after it, another one came down and exploded. And people literally melted like Hiroshima. They said after they had flooded the area with water, they found like inches of fat, of human flesh. It's absolutely disgusting. It's appalling. It was a travesty of justice at the time. And they tried to sue the government and nothing came about it. And it's just another sample of the brutality of war and invasion and occupation that happened. And this is in 1991. You can only imagine what had happened in Iraq afterwards, post the US invasion in 2003. This is one I remember profoundly, even though I was a kid. I was only, I think, 10 or 11 years old, how profound it was that these people had died for the sake of war, of people not caring for humanity. I'm glad I'm seeing it here for myself and paying homage to these people.
Baghdad still is recovering from the significant economic decline that has been ongoing for decades. Poor infrastructure in the city, exacerbated by a huge population, numbering almost 10 million in a city that is said to have been designed for a fifth of that number. Frequent water cuts that last up to 10 hours a day. Power outages that are surreal. 10 to 15 times a day, there's a power cut that requires generators to power up homes. And these diesel power generators emit air, noise, and heat pollution that make the city even hotter. Greenery used to exist in abundance and now is all but gone, and many roads and buildings are abandoned or left entirely dilapidated. But one of the most aggravating issues was the sheer level of trash everywhere. Just when I really started to lose hope with the realities of so much conflict and its dire consequences, I remembered an incredible talk that I had seen in person on that very first visit to Iraq during TEDx Baghdad. It was delivered by an architect, Manal al-Haboubi. Not very well known at the time, he had entered a competition for the new General Secretariat for the Council of Ministers building, and his design in the shape of an infinity from the ancient cuneiform writing was chosen among the best architects in the world, including Iraq's own Zaha Hadid. I was so moved by his talk, where he professed, our own destiny is tied to the destiny of the country in ensuring its infinity. Honestly, that was a pivot point in my life, as I ended up working on Iraqi-American policy and wrote about his talk as part of my application to graduate school, and later spoke about it as a student during my own TEDx-style talk titled Hope and Infinity. I recalled all of this when I saw that building he designed after a decade of delay was finally being built, and it filled me with a resurgence of hope.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do a run in Baghdad. It's about 100 degrees, but it's nighttime now, so it shouldn't be hopefully as bad. I'll try to survive, but I'm gonna try to just kind of run through different neighborhoods, try not to get too much attention, because that was just not many people run here, especially not during the summer. And just check it out as I kind of go through the city and just kind of run through it, just because I love doing that and I love exploring while running. So let's see how this works. All right, running across the Tigris, right here, Abu Nawas. There's a couple of cool spots to run in. So we're gonna keep going and see how long we can go for. It's kind of hard to walk around Baghdad because there's not that many sidewalks, traffic, it's tough. But there's a beautiful part called Abu Nawas here on the Risafa side of Baghdad. And I just discovered it. I decided to go out of the house and take a walk, and Baghdad never sleeps because it's always busy, always popping. And you can see behind me, it's so nice to be out here. They've kind of created a place for you to walk and just kind of enjoy the nightlife. And it's beautiful because I can imagine for so long in Iraq, all kinds of things that really just made life very difficult here. And people still prosper, and they still are resilient. And this place right here is just a beautiful testament to it because it's super hot tonight and everybody's out and everybody's enjoying themselves, barbecuing, playing sports, hanging out with their families. You almost feel like this place is impervious to these calamities. I keep saying it just makes me proud to be Iraqi. You know, for my family to be from this place, to be born here, and for me to finally be able to discover it for myself has just been such an honor, and I'm so fortunate for it.
As I kept exploring Baghdad, I did so with a new eye for a better future. There were indeed signs of progress. New bridges and roads, buildings and communities, malls, shops, parks, restaurants, and an abundance of nightlife. I witnessed a sheer desire by the people to exchange decades of stagnation and regression for a leap into modernity, stability, and hope for the people.
So for many years, I felt very scared to come to Iraq. My family had told me that there are so many dangers, and I followed the news and I saw the civil strife and the random killings and the terrorism, and I avoided it for many years. But for some reason, this time I felt drawn to come. I just said, you know what? In Arabic, there's something called niyya, your intention. And I thought, I have the best intention to come, to see my family, to see the country, to see Baghdad, and to do things that were long overdue for me. This is where my mother spent her time, and my family still lives here for the past 40 years. I explored so much of the world, and I felt this is the right time to come. And slowly but surely, I started to venture out on my own without family and just kind of exploring it for myself. I felt such an emotional connection because this is it. This is my homeland. This is where my family grew up for generations. People look like me. They can sound like me. They share the same religion and the same belief systems, the same cultural mores, and it's beautiful. It's like finally you're finding your community, your identity, and seeing the people really interacting with the Iraqi people, my people, salt of the earth, so proud of their roots, and so many of them coming back to Iraq, deciding never to leave, not to migrate elsewhere because they love their country. They have such hope in their country.
I do want to go back. I want to explore the North, where my family and ancestors are from, as well as the rich culture of the South. I want to see more, eat more, capture more. Honestly, I can't wait to experience as much as I can without worry that I will not be accepted. For this trip inspired me to be a proud tourist in my own country.
There's such pride in this experience for me, and I hope I was able to share a little bit of that with you on this adventure. So thank you for watching and sharing this personal experience with me. I really, really hope you enjoyed it and you have an opportunity to come to this beautiful city and this incredible country yourself. Thank you again for watching. Stay curious always, and I look forward to seeing you on my next journey.
الرسالة اللي وصلتني هي أن العراق أكبر من أن نخاف عليه. حضارة استمرت 5000 سنة ما ممكن أن تنتهي، لأن قدرها هو اللانهاية. شكراً.